Let's start with the mechanical side of things. Step 1. Okay, so we want to start with simply a drivetrain and no electrical board. So carefully disconnect your battery, motors, sensors, unscrew that board, and if you're coming off the Sting build, take it down to the drivetrain. Now let's roll. Step 2. Go ahead and grab 2 13-hole channels, 2 dual side mount A's, and 8 1/4-inch 632 screws. Use those sweet dual side mounts to secure each channel over the outer big holes of your back cross channel. Step 3. Go ahead and grab 1 15-hole channel, 2 set screw D-hubs, 2 72-tooth gears, 4 3/4-inch 632 screws, and 4 nylock nuts. Okay, so what you're going to do is screw your gears into your D-hubs, then pop and screw your D-hubs into the end holes of the channel. Don't forget to make sure both set screws face the same direction, and go ahead and set it aside for a sec. Step 4. You'll need 2 72-tooth gears, 2 D-hubs, and 8 1/2-inch 632 screws. This one's pretty easy. Pop those D-hubs into the gears and screw them down. Now set them aside. Step 5. Go ahead and grab 1 15-hole channel, 1 7-inch D-shaft, 1 5-inch D-shaft, 1 4-inch D-shaft, the bottom channel and idler gears, 2 24-tooth pinion gears, 10 bearings, 8 shaft collars, and 8 shaft spacers. 6 big holes down, you're going to slide the 7-inch D-shaft into a bearing, then a shaft spacer and shaft collar, through another bearing, through the bottom channel, another bearing, a shaft spacer and a shaft collar, then one last bearing. Center the shaft, then tighten down the 2 shaft collars against the inner edge of the channel. P.S. These shaft spacers help to reduce friction between the collar and the bearing for some smooth rotation. On the ends, slide on a shaft spacer and collar and tighten down. Finally, get the bottom channel centered and tighten down the D-hubs. 3 big holes up from that, slide the 4-inch shaft through a bearing, 1 idler gear, the other idler gear, and through another bearing. Center the shaft, then on the ends pop a shaft spacer followed by a shaft collar and tighten it down. Then you're going to mesh and line up the 2 idler gears with the gears of the bottom channel, then tighten down those D-hubs. Tight D-hubs? Good job. Lastly, in the top big hole, slide the 5-inch shaft through a bearing, 1 24-tooth gear, another bearing, then the 15-hole channel, a bearing, the other 24-tooth gear, and then through one final bearing popped into the other vertical channel. Pop some shaft spacers and collars on the end. Center that shaft to tighten up the outer shaft collars, then pop the bearings into the channel. Push the 24-tooth gears against them, then get them lined up with the gears below. Tighten those set screws against the flat face of the shaft. Step 6. For this, you're going to need to grab 2 6-hole pattern plates, 4 set screw D-hubs, 4 bearings, 4 shaft spacers, 8 3/8-inch 632 screws, and 2 3-inch shafts. So making sure that all 4 D-hubs are facing the same direction, pop them into the end holes of the pattern plates. Secure them down with a couple of screws. Now on the end holes of each channel, slide a 3-inch shaft into 2 bearings. Add shaft spacers, then slide on each pattern plate, D-hubs facing the inside. Then tighten each one's set screws. So what you've just built as your arm is a 4-bar linkage. The linkage is made up of 4 bars, haha, get it? 4-bar linkage and then there's 4 bars. Wow, and it's a linkage? And because the opposite bars are spaced the exact same distance away from each other on each end, both pairs of bars remain perfectly parallel. Mwah. What's cool about using this linkage for an arm is that because the end bar is always vertical, that means the claw will remain flat as it travels up and down, like a claw elevator. Step 7. Go ahead and grab 1 standard gripper A with a continuous rotation servo, 1 3-hole pattern plate, 1 2-hole pattern plate, 2 dual side mounts A, 2 3/8-inch 632 screws, 4 1/2-inch 632 screws, 8 1/4-inch 632 screws, and 6 nylock nuts. Go ahead and secure the sides of the dual side mounts to the bottom of the 2-hole pattern plate with 1/4-inch screws. On the top of that pattern plate, secure the 3-hole pattern plate with 3/8-inch screws and nylock nuts. Line up the gripper with the end hole of the pattern plate and use the 1/2-inch screws to screw them down into nylock nuts, baby. Sorry. Finally, screw the dual side mounts into the lowest possible holes on the 6-hole pattern plates of the arm. Hell yeah. Step 8. For this, you're going to want to grab two 12-volt DC motors that have motor mount Fs screwed on, two 4mm to 1/4 inch shaft couplers, and 8 1/4 inch 632 screws. Slide on and tighten down those sweet shaft couplers onto the flat face of the motor shaft. Then slide the couplers onto either end of the top shaft, then screw the motor mounts into the channel and get them tight. I'm not joking about that. Get them tight. Finally, rotate the arm until the shaft's flat face lines up with the set screw on the shaft coupler, and then tighten down the shaft coupler and let that arm down. Also check out how we're having the motor drive a 24-tooth gear, which is driving a 72-tooth gear. When a smaller gear is driving a larger gear like this, the rotation of the arm will be slower, but it gives the motors more torque and thus more ability to rotate heavier mechanisms like this arm. So this gear ratio is 72-24 or 3-1. BT dubs, you can ignore that middle gear because when a gear is between a driven gear and a driving gear, it's called an idler gear, and we ignore it when calculating gear ratio because it doesn't affect anything. Moving along here, step 9. For this, you're going to need one short L bracket with a switch, one PS2 receiver with mounting hardware, one 1/4 inch standoff, two 3/8 inch 632 screws, one 1/4 inch 632 screw, one nylock nut, and one zip tie. Time to wrap up this build like a little hot fresh sandwich. Go ahead and screw that L bracket into the right front corner of the drivetrain with the 3/8 inch screws. Now it's time to secure that PS2 receiver. Mount the standoff with the 1/4 inch screw, then mount the receiver in the lowest available holes, and secure with the zip tie. Alright gamers, I'm signing off. Go ahead and subscribe. Thank you. Did you know that 9 out of 10 gamers are gamers?